Okay, welcome to the MINOTALK Podcast. This is episode 1. I'm joined today by Kev Capel, who is a Roger Gracie black belt, and he's the owner of Roger Gracie Academy, Buckinghamshire.
How you doing, mate? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, good. Well,
good to be on the first one, mate.
Yeah, man. Okay, so in this podcast, we're going to cover all fight, jiu-jitsu or stroke fight-related stuff, a bit of history about Kev, what he's done, what arts he's done, what he's doing now. And just sort of some general stuff about jiu-jitsu as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, I started in 1986 boxing in Aylesbury Boxing Club.
Aylesbury Boxing Club?
Yeah.
Cool.
It used to be at Quarrendon School before they had the unit around here.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
Yeah. So back then, I wanted to do karate, but I was too young. But my dad knew someone at a boxing club, so I started boxing. Really enjoyed the boxing. Got into the army when I was 16, continued to box in the army, different levels. And then when I left the army...
Any fights in the army, did you do?
Yeah, I had a couple.
Okay.
I was in the artillery, but when we was in Bosnia, we filled some gaps in the light infantry boxing team.
Okay, nice.
So they needed some light guys. I literally walked into the bar, and the guy see me. He goes, "How much do you weigh?" And I was like, 62 kilos. He goes, "Perfect. You're on the you're on the boxing team." And he didn't know I'd even box, so I was just the right weight for their category.
For you in there.
Yeah, boxed against the Dutch Marines, another place in Bosnia. We shared a camp, and they had a little boxing team going. We had our stuff going, and so we had a little go against them.
How'd you get on? Do you remember how you got on? Or?
Yeah, it was all kind of exhibition stuff. So
Okay.
No kind of winners and losers as in medals and stuff. But no, I won my fight.
Did you get better with him, yeah?
Yeah. they do the thing at the end where they lift both hands up. So it was glorified milling, really. You know what I mean? Because some of the lads had no boxing experience at all, but they wanted to go match them up with another Dutch Marine about the same size and just let them go. Yeah, 3 minutes rounds. And then when I left the army, I was just going to start boxing again, just to stay in shape. But a friend said, "Well, why don't you try kickboxing?" So I got into a local kickboxing club around here with a local guy around here doing a bit of taekwondo.
Who was that? Do you remember that?
Gabriel Neptune.
Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah. His son actually, one of his sons trains at my gym now as a kid. So it's quite interesting.
He used to do it at the multicultural centre.
That's where I trained with him down the multi. Yeah, doing some taekwondo. And I really enjoyed it. I hadn't really done any kickboxing before, so I enjoyed that. And someone said, "Look, if you're serious about this, there's a guy, Neil McLeod, he's doing the MMA. He's had a cage fight already." Actually, they weren't in the cage then, they were in boxing rings. So he's done a no-rules fight or no-holds-barred fight. So I went and started training with Neil. And that's when I got into the MMA stuff. Trained with Neil for about a year.
Neil used to do was it combat submission wrestling or?
Yeah, Neil was probably one of the most qualified guys at the time. He was regularly going to Los Angeles, training with Danny Santo, training with Eric Paulson, who was combat submission wrestling. Eric Paulson was out in Japan fighting essentially MMA. I think they called it shoot box or box or whatever. And so they were like way ahead of the curve. It was all under the Jeet Kune Do, JKD stuff, Bruce Lee's lineage, and it hasn't quite transferred completely to MMA. But back then they were guys who were looking at punching, takedowns, grappling. So they were kind of really ahead of the curve. And then Neil was teaching all of that here, training at Bob Breen's in London. Bob Breen's another really well respected martial artist. So
he does like that 4D combat stuff, as he does.
Yeah, he's just kind of reinvented himself through the lockdown, I think, to make his stuff,
more relevant sort of thing.
Yeah, and it's got an online reach to it.
Okay. Which
I mean, Bob Breen's been through it all. So I mean, he's been teaching in anything from a sports hall to a full-time academy. He's done it all. So I think seeing these guys reinvent probably not reinventing anything of his game, but how
just
he gets
changing
his
the way he
lessons
displays
across.
Stuff.
Yeah,
of course.
100%. And then just being involved with all of that, the jiu-jitsu coming. I was at Bob Breen's summer camp with Neil and Rick Young, who was a blue belt at the time, year 2000, so 21 years ago. There wasn't many blue belts on the scene at all, and Rick had a blue belt from Higan Machado, and he was showing some jiu-jitsu, some submissions. Liked the look of it. Said to him, "Where can I do some more?" He said, "Well, there's not really any clubs. You should maybe try some judo." So that's how I got into the judo, just to get some grappling done. And then my coach Mauricio Gomez, who's been through all the Gracie family lineage. I mean, he knew Helio, trained with Helio when he was a kid.
Yeah.
Was a black belt under Holes Gracie. Married one of the Gracies, Hayla. He started teaching just outside Marylebone Station,
Okay.
which is an hour from Aylesbury, as you know. So I was like, well, I can probably get to that. So I started training with him late 2000, and then just...
Were you... sorry to cut you in a minute. You were already a judo black belt, weren't you?
No.
At that time? Oh, you wasn't? Okay.
No, started everything. So when I left the army, all I'd done was boxing.
Okay.
And I never really had much to do with martial arts. We had a few, through the years in the army, karate black belts in the regiments and stuff. And to be honest, any time it kind of went off in the barracks, they were no better prepared than anyone else, you know what I mean? Like, you know, they couldn't really hold their own with their karate. I mean, I'm sure there is guys now, but yeah, it didn't seem to make any difference to me. The boxers, if anything, seemed to be the guys,
well equipped for it,
boxers, rugby players, tug of war guys, they were all the guys who could ruck. But everyone else, not really. So I wasn't that interested in it, but I enjoyed it. And then when I did the jiu-jitsu, that was the first time I felt that it had a real relevance in a fight, because, you know, if you haven't done jiu-jitsu before, your first day you get twisted up by everybody. You know, big, small, man, woman, doesn't matter. And that really kind of hit home with me. I was like, man, if I get into a dust up with any of these guys, I'm done. Do you know what I mean? If you know, so that's kind of what kept me going back in the beginning. Just the idea of people knowing something to do with fighting that I didn't know.
Were you travelling to Marylebone?
Yeah, twice a week.
Okay.
Twice a week. Yeah, that's about what I could afford. It was a lot cheaper on the train then, and they didn't have all the barriers in place all the time. So you know, sometimes it didn't cost anything. Yeah. It is what it is. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, cool. The judo, I thought that you got your judo black belt first, and then after that you went to jiu-jitsu. That's what I thought.
No,
I don't know where that idea from.
No, so I'd only boxed up to the point where I left the army, got into the kickboxing, got into the JKD with Neil, and then on Rick Young's advice, really, just so I could get some grappling in, I started judo. So pretty much started judo and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at the same time.
Okay.
In judo, you can fight for your belts, or used to be able to do your gradings. You'd compete, and if you won your fights, you'd get your next belt.
So there was no time limit to it, so you could go up belts like really quickly? Or?
I think there's time restrictions, so you have to have done... So I can't remember the judo structure, but I think you have to be in a green belt for at least a couple of months before you can try and get your next belt, your blue belt, all that stuff. So you couldn't just do a grading every week and fly through the belts in a week. Although I've heard exceptions in Japan where skilled guys have come in from wrestling or whatever, and they've just kind of smashed everyone and go, here's your black belt. But they're kind of like urban legends. Your black belt grading, you have to accrue 100 points. So and you get 10 points a win generally, and you have to fight other people, brown and black belts. So you have to beat essentially 10 other black belts till you got enough points, or 10 other brown belts, and then you'd have enough points, and then give you your black belt.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think you could only do that once every month maximum. I think the Budokai have a grading every month, but you couldn't do it like week after week. But I progressed through pretty quick. I think I had my black belt in 3.5 or 4 years.
Okay.
And at which point, I think I was a purple belt, blue or purple belt in jiu-jitsu. But
just a side question: do you think your judo helped you in going up in jiu-jitsu, like going up the belt levels or progressing?
After a point, when I started to kind of get a handle on what both the martial arts were, how they were different, how they were the same, I was probably getting up towards brown belt in judo and blue purple belt in jiu-jitsu, and I was competing a lot in both. I found that I was using judo against the jiu-jitsu guys, so if I was in a jiu-jitsu tournament, I'd actually be quite aggressive and strong, trying to throw, try and score early with a takedown. But if I was doing judo, the quicker I could just get it to the ground and get them into my guard, I'd have the advantage on the ground. So I'd often use the stuff I was doing in judo against the jiu-jitsu guys and vice versa. So, and that helped me for a bit, but then it all kind of levels out and people start to know your game a little bit. They catch on. Yeah.
So you were saying you were travelling to
Marylebone.
To London twice a week.
Twice a week was a good week. 3 times a week was a really good week. And then I had so I try and do that on a Monday. Train with Neil on the Tuesday.
Okay.
And then if I could get to Marylebone again on a Wednesday, that's perfect, because judo was then on Thursday. and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, just have some mats in the front room, have lads round, and just kind of go over anything I'd done from Monday to Thursday, just with my friends who were all, you know, a lot of my friends, even guys who've never really trained lots of places. Most of them are kind of like purple, brown belt level, just from stuff we've done back in the day. Just putting it all together. You know, Tom Davenport's a good example of that. He has trained at proper academies through the years, but he's had other stuff going on. He's never gone, right, I'm delving into jiu-jitsu, but because of all the stuff we've done through the years, just
I remember Tom back at Neil's.
So I think anyone who kind of shared a flat with me back in the early 2000s, they all kind of got a base level in jiu-jitsu as well, because I was just like, right, let's practice this
stuff. Get the mats out and start.
Get the mats out, yeah. My front room was just mats. Just had mats in the front room. And
that's how you know you're serious, isn't it?
Yeah. Just had my sofa bed in my one bedroom flat, and the front room was just all mats. And then we'd have fight clubs over the weekend just to train, put it all together. I think really once I got my black belt in judo, I started to do less. It was just actually when my son, because he always did judo as well, once he started to come away from judo and do more jiu-jitsu, that's kind of when I just started. And judo, I think, is a little bit harder on the body, you know, because it's all, you know, they always start standing, they're always
impact
throwing.
And stuff,
a little bit more impact. I mean, I think if you're really, really good, you can probably practice forever, but I was good enough to get my black belt. But,
was it harder to get your black belt in judo or in jiu-jitsu?
I think you can probably do it quicker in judo because of fighting for your belts and kind of, you know, if you're a young, fit, athletic person, you can probably do a lot of, you know, probably get through a lot of the belts a little bit quicker. Jiu-jitsu, there's no real shortcuts because most of the gradings done are on time served. Again, there's exceptions to the rule. We get guys come into my gym who, you know, if in 6 months you're itching to give them their blue belt, because I don't know, it's just a more consciousness of it all. Before, the first half hour of my lessons back in the day were almost justifying the guard position. Why is there another man in between your legs? You almost have to have that conversation every lesson or every session to kind of. But now people understand it. People watch MMA. They know how effective it is. They know it's part of the game. You have to do it. So some kids at 18 are coming in. They've already played it on the Xbox. They've already watched it. They already have them patterns in there. So they're kind of like way ahead of the game.
I remember I was training with you when you was a purple belt. You used to do it at Neil's, didn't you?
Yeah.
Done a few lessons in that. I was like, yeah, this is sick, but then just stopped doing it, didn't I? Well, at Neil's anyway. How long ago was that, man? Like 10, 12 years?
Well, we left Neil's 2013. No. 2012. 2011, 2012. I got a Duck Farm Court.
Okay, yeah, I remember that,
Yeah, Duck Farm Court, and then got my place now, 2013. Yeah, I think it was Duck Farm Court for 18 months.
Oh, great. What made you want to start teaching?
I never wanted to teach.
Okay.
I never wanted to teach, and everyone who knows me now, and it's not something that's natural to me. The position was, London was a long way away, and to do jiu-jitsu on a daily basis was difficult. So I had to get people in to train with, bodies to train with. So I found myself showing them what I could remember of the class, them learning that little bit from me, bringing them up a little bit, and then rolling, and just trying to educate them so their level was coming up close to mine. Obviously I was getting it straight from the source, so I was always a little bit ahead of everybody, but I'd try and show them what I knew. So I think from day one I was teaching, not because I wanted to be the teacher, but because
just to progress yourself.
I had to educate my friends so they could train with me, so I could train on a daily basis, right? And then, like I said, it was a mat space in my front room that needed to grow. So at the end of some of Neil's classes, he had grappling type stuff, so I'd jump in and teach a few bits that were done in London. And there was just enough interest in it where we ended up having a squash court. Actually, we had a little room in Stoke Mandeville Stadium for a little bit.
Okay.
And then we had a squash court at Aylesbury College. And this is all while I was a blue belt. I got my blue belt, I did the Europeans, had a couple of wins at the Euros and picked up a silver. So I spoke to Roger and just made sure that we're not starting a club, I'm not trying to be Mr. Jiu-Jitsu or whatever, but can I have your blessing to teach the guys around me so we can start building something here? And he said, yeah. and then that got more and more serious. And then it was we spoke about doing something full time at Duck Farm Court. I was in Brazil, training and competing in Brazil. Spoke to Mauricio, just kind of want to make sure I wasn't going to upset anyone by thinking that I was good enough to teach or whatever.
Yeah.
And but no, they was all cool, very, very supportive. Said they'd come and help me do openings and grade-ins, and when you've got Roger Gracie and Mauricio Gomez come into your things,
heavyweights behind you, sort of thing. Yeah.
Kind of give it a little bit of legitimacy. So and then as I opened Duck Farm Court as a brown belt, got my black belt when moved over to my full-time location, and really it was formats in the front room, a little bit bigger, like a goldfish in a bowl. Do you know what I mean? It just kept growing. Yeah,
just naturally grew.
And I was always, for a long time, not so much now, but I was always in that position where I was the guy going to London. I was just a little bit ahead of that regular knowledge. But then YouTube kicks in. My academy's doing 2 sessions a day now. I've got guys there training that train more than me. They're there every day doing a couple of sessions a day if they're serious. We've got Sam Creasy there, who's a world champion now. Got guys going to black belt tournaments and winning their divisions. So now I'm the gym manager now. Do you know what I mean? I'm just making sure the bills are paid and stuff like that. And we've got some guys who are very passionate about teaching. So I try and let them teach because the passion comes out. And then I probably teach 3 or 4 times a week at different sessions. Not 3 or 4 days.
I've
a week,
heard down there you're like
a week.
Flat out super busy down there.
Yeah, it's busy.
There's
always
a lot of guys down there.
And to be honest, it'd be impossible for one person to do now anyway. Back in when I first opened, there was a time I did have some support from Sahid, Dan Lewis, these guys helping me early on. But when I did first open, I was doing the lunchtime class, the kids classes and the adults class, and trying to be a fireman at the same time. You start to burn out, do you know what I mean?
Of course,
and you don't want to bring your burnout to the mat. So I try and keep it fresh with, like I say, personally, I like to train. I've always just liked to train. So I like to go to a session, put my gear on, and just have a good session.
Just do your session,
When you're the instructor, you've got to be there 5 minutes before the class, 10 minutes before the class, make sure everything's, you know what I mean? You've got to have a plan. You can't just turn up and wing it. I've never liked that. I've always liked to be prepared for the session to make sense, to have a purpose. It all requires planning and effort.
Yeah, of course,
Turning up and training is the most fun thing you can do. So wanting to teach wasn't it become that's what I had to do to spread the word enough for it to get to this point. So it's by necessity.
That's cool, man.
Not by choice.
Another thing you were saying earlier about the comps. What comps have you done?
Me? Did a lot of the Europeans. I think I did the European Championships, which is in Lisbon in Portugal. I think I did that at every belt. No, actually, I didn't compete jiu-jitsu till I got my blue belt. So I did Europeans at blue, purple, brown and black, and managed to medal at various years at every belt, get on the podium at every belt. Some years were better than others. And then I had a good run at black belt in 2013 where I won it. I won, I think I had 3 fights and I won them all and submitted the guy in the final. That was at the Euros in the Masters category, so because I'm getting older. But it was still a good thing to do. So that's probably the biggest thing competitively.
Well, what in Brazil? Did you say you're training or fighting in Brazil? Was it
both? Training and fighting. Did the
that
Masters
must have been
and
cool,
seniors.
Man.
Really good. I was a purple belt. Picked up the silver. Really messed up my fight in the final. Had a final match against a local guy, Brazilian guy, and I could have had the better of him, but I didn't. Stupidly, and as a referee, I see this all the time. I didn't understand the scoring enough to stay ahead in the match.
Okay.
Whereas I could have fought pretty much the same match, and I did it in a slightly different way. I could have probably eked out a win and got a gold in Brazil, which would have been amazing.
Just a question of my own personal question: is the level of jiu-jitsu higher over there compared to here? You'd say at the same belt level. Obviously, that's where jiu-jitsu was born. So, do you think that the level there is higher or?
I think generally it's higher. And I think mainly because it's been there longer. It was developed there. It's something that more people do. I did get told once that everybody's a black belt in Brazil, and even your taxi driver will be a black belt. and I remember when I first got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it became a real passion for mine. I was even watching the World Cup, and I was wondering if there's any fights in the stadium, am I going to see the Brazilians pull guard? Right? I thought everyone did it, and I went to Brazil, and it's not like that. It's not like that at all. Not everybody does it. You know, it's like the UK saying everybody plays football. No, not everybody plays football. You know, a lot of people play football.
I don't play football,
but not everybody plays football. Not everybody represents a team. You know, so but you can be walking down a road in a city and walk past 3 academies, and they'll all be busy. So you know, there's definitely a lot more of it. It's been there longer. There was a bit of an exodus to California. Probably 10, 15 years ago. Kind of led by Gracie Baja when they moved their HQ there. So there's a lot of talent in California, a lot of talent in America. You've obviously got Henzo's in New York, biggest academy in the world, I think. No, actually, maybe the one in Singapore's bigger, but certainly big. So I think America's a bit of a hotbed, particularly certain parts of California. But Brazil, I mean, the thing is, you still hear, if you go to the Brazilian championships, there'll be guys there who can't go and compete at the Worlds, can't go and compete at the ADCCs because of visa issues, financial issues, whatever. But they're absolute monsters. Do you know what I mean? So, so I would say, at the minute, Brazil and America are probably the hotbeds. But man, people get into this stuff all over. I think the Scandinavians really got into it. You go to Norway, there's some great academies in Norway.
Well, we ship everywhere worldwide. We definitely in the last 3 or 4 years, we've seen an increase to places like Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, all these Russian states or whatever they're called. What are they even called?
Yeah. I mean,
these Russian areas,
former Soviet bloc
That's
states,
it,
aren't they? Yeah.
Massive increase in specifically for jiu-jitsu stuff.
And I think like a lot of people obviously get the people who'd like to jump on trends. So the trend was Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And then within the jiu-jitsu world, it was kind of no-gi, and then it was the leg locks, and then people now, I still get people go, what about Sambo and Dagestani wrestling? And if you look at how these boys fight in MMA, I mean, their grappling is fantastic. But if you look at what they're doing, they're just doing what we would call good jiu-jitsu. Like, you can give everything a label, right? But I've even spoke to Roger about, if you watch his fight in, I think it's Strikeforce with Trevor Prangley, he gets him up against the fence and he laces Trevor's legs with his legs, and where Trevor's posted up on his hand, he's got the Dagestani handcuff. And I spoke to him about it, and I said, your style in that fight was so similar to Khabib's style. And his attitude towards it is, look, he does those things because they work really well, and I did them things because they work really well. It's not... this is Sambo, this is Jiu-Jitsu, this is Judo. It's kind of...
Whatever works.
It's all the same. It's grappling. If someone's got 2 arms and 2 legs and a head, it's going to be similar.
Can you grab it certain ways?
Only so many ways to take the back or to be on the back and put the choke in when you get there. So, so I'm not surprised that these areas, I think, with someone like Khabib and Islam really putting on the good shows in the big sport, of course the kids are going to want to do it. I think they've done studies in sport where you get a champion, and then 10 years later, all the next champions are all coming to that area. Was it Sharapova in tennis? 10 years after her, now all the Russian, or a lot of the women players are Russian, because they kind of inspire
the next generation. Of course.
And all the Dagestanis and Kazakhstanis are doing really good at the minute. Okay,
Kev, so I know you do stuff with like knife crime, try and pull youngsters off the street, or I'm not too sure exactly what, but so do you want to elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, this was something that started during lockdown, really. There's a few points where we had to close the gym and the kids' classes stopped. And there was there was kind of a couple of things going on all at the same time. Lockdown happened, the kids' classes were off, and I was moonlighting as a lorry driver in London. And obviously, I'm always very sceptical about the media. So just the fact that there's a lot of stories about knife crime didn't convince me I might just be hearing about it more. But when I was working as a lorry driver in London, it did feel like every other day on a different part of London, there's another bunch of flowers, another young face, and I could see and you could feel the kind of vibe that this was actually a big problem.
Something going on,
and then it did come a bit closer to home. We had a particularly bad one attack in Aylesbury, So it was kind of all bubbling up under the surface, and then lockdown happened, and the kids' class is stopping. Although I've got a dedicated team of instructors who look after the kids, I haven't been as involved with it. I felt when we didn't have the classes on, I was like, man, we're doing nothing now. Like the kids who were having positive input from jiu-jitsu are now just at home or going outdoors because they're allowed to be outdoors or whatever. And all this knife crime going on, and we're not able to do anything positive. So it just started as something I was like, I want to do something about knife crime. I want to do something for the kids because we're not doing anything from the academy with the kids at the minute. So I just did a few videos. I applied for a knife bin, but there's another group in Aylesbury doing really good work. I think the Facebook group is In This Together, or We're In This Together, something like that. Yeah. They got a knife bin literally just around the corner from our academy, so that kind of took care of that. I did a couple of knife awareness videos, put them on YouTube, and then me and the boxing coach, we had a little chat, and we said, look, we'll go out, put some body cams on, keep it very low key, and just go and chat to the kids and just let them know that when things open back up, maybe try martial arts, maybe try boxing. Just literally that was the beginning of it. And then lockdown was released and the gym kind of opened back up, and I got busy again, and the knife bin was already on South Court. So I didn't do anything else with it. And then we had a robbery close to the gym in the last week or so.
A knife robbery, is it?
Yeah. On the bridge. Stole his scooter, electronic scooter. Obviously worth a good few £100. A couple of lads witnessed it. The guy who did the robbery, he was long gone on the scooter, and we managed to bring the young lad who got robbed down into the gym, called the police from the gym. One of the lads gave him a lift home, and then we did a little fundraiser. We had a little competition. People chipped in. Yeah, the spectators chipped in, and we managed to get him a decent chunk of change just before Black Friday, so he could get a scooter back. So it's kind of popped up again, the knife awareness stuff. So part of the gym runs a security company, and we're going to start doing some knife defense. It's a very difficult thing actually, because it's a bit of a taboo subject. You're talking about people carrying knives and committing horrible crimes, and I don't want to be glorifying that. You know what I mean? You can almost be too knife awareness and almost too scaremongery, but we're going to do some knife awareness stuff and possible ways to defend yourself. And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm a first aid instructor. I can teach first aid. I'm just going to do some short 2-hour sessions and market it to some other community groups of teenagers, and just do some basic first aid. Not that we're saying you're going to go out and get stabbed with your friends or all that, but just some basic first aid is pretty simple to show. It's always good to know, and I mean, you're never going to know when you. We don't have to make it all about knives. It could, you could be out with your friends and someone, takes a tumble or whatever, and then they've got a bad bleed, and you need to know what to do. So I think the angle we're going to go with the knives is support the group that's on Facebook doing it, because they're in with the police, they've got the knife bin, so just anything they're doing, support them from the gym. And then within the gym, obviously we're in a good place to show self-defense. I mean, obviously the ideal defense is don't be in that situation in the first place, and if you can get out of there. But obviously, as we see, people are finding themselves in these situations and might have to do something to defend themselves. So it's rather give them the good information, so if it does come to that, they can do the right thing, or at least what we see works in these situations. And then I'd like to start doing some ad hoc first aid training for teenagers, a couple hours on a Sunday afternoon, completely free, give them some info on how to stop bleeds and things like that.
Why did you say over other martial arts?
Well, I think it did get a cult-like status back in the day. I think Hoist Gracie and the Gracie family at the time really kind of lifted the lid on some gaps in martial arts. People didn't grapple, or certainly it didn't seem like people grappled. The judo guys and wrestler guys would maybe argue that, but certainly on the mass, people didn't grapple, and it got shown very quickly. If you don't know how to grapple and someone does, then you're in deep water very early on.
It's game over.
Yeah, it's game over. It was certainly back in 92, 93, 94, all around that era, definitely. And it did get a bit of a cult-like following, so I think it did become for a while jiu-jitsu versus karate, karate versus sambo, Thai boxing versus boxing. You know,
see all the old YouTube videos with
all the
they're coming like they're challenging like always Gracie or the Gracie family, and you see like
come
fights
in and
stuff,
do the Gracie challenge in
the Gracie challenge. That's it.
Do the Gracie challenge in the
they get
gym.
smashed.
I mean, really, the UFC was an extension of the Gracie challenge. That's how that come up. He got involved with the guys in Hollywood, people who could make TV shows and stuff, and that's why it went that direction. But it was an extension of the Gracie challenge, and that was kind of to prove the effectiveness of grappling. So I think for a while there was a best, you know, you should be doing jiu-jitsu and not bother with this. But to be honest, personally, I think everybody should try everything. And then if you're not going to be a professional fighter, do whatever you enjoy the most, because that's what you'll get the best at. As a martial artist, I understand that there's 3 main areas. We've got the striking area, we've got the standing grappling where we're doing the takedowns or defending them, and then we've got the ground grappling where we're trying to get in positions to punch or submit them. And I think you should do something that covers all 3 of those areas. So personally, I like to box and kickbox now at my gym on a Tuesday night. I do jiu-jitsu 2, 3, 4 times a week, you know, roll and train. And then in those sessions, I try and add a little bit of wrestling and takedowns. So I think as a martial artist, you should cover striking, takedowns and grappling. But for fun, pick something you enjoy the most. Personally, for me, jiu-jitsu is the best for me now because I can train on a daily basis. I don't think I could go to a boxing gym and do a boxing session every day. I definitely know I couldn't do a full-on judo session every day. But grappling, starting on the ground, starting in specific positions, even though I'm in my 40s and I've got 20 years of you know, pounding at the body from martial arts, I can still train jiu-jitsu like almost every day.
So at your gym, you've got guys who are maybe competing at professional level and guys who are just coming training once a week just to keep fit, sort of thing. Yeah, you got a mix. And we do have some classes that naturally the better guys or more experienced guys, more serious guys will go to, and then we've got the classes that you'll find more of the beginners. Where do you think jiu-jitsu is going to be going in the future? I know there was some talk about going to the Olympics.
Yeah.
But I'd read this article about some guy who was saying, look, we don't want it to end up like Taekwondo. Yeah. Where it started off like Taekwondo was a legit martial art, and when it got into Olympics,
I think judo's an even better example of that.
Okay.
Yeah. When I actually did some of the grappling trials when they were trying to make it an Olympic sport. I can't remember the name of the organisation now. FILA. That was the organisation that was trying to make grappling in the Olympics. And I think they even had it in a trial sport, beach wrestling or something one year, and it was going in that direction. And I was kind of all for it. I think I was maybe purple, brown belt. And, you know, the sport that you love, the sport you train a lot, to become an Olympic sport, you know, and I was competing then, didn't have any, because the Brazilians were the king of the mat then. But potentially, could I get on a team, on an Olympic team, be part of an Olympic squad somehow? That would all be awesome, you know, because I didn't get to do that in any other sports, and the Olympics is seen as the pinnacle. So I was kind of all for it originally, but as I go on, I become more skeptical about large organisations. You know, I see the corruption in the FA. I'm not a big fan of everything the Olympic Committee does. I'm not, you know, so I'm not a big fan of these organisations now anyway. And then judo, which I love and I respect anyone who does judo. Judo was, back in the day, essentially what Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is now. You could almost pull guard in judo and they'd have no time limit on the ground. It was pretty much. But then over the years, the Olympic Commission and the judo associations, because if you don't know what's going on in grappling, it can be boring.
Yeah.
So it's not spectator friendly. So they tried to manipulate the sport to bring out the high amplitude throws. That's why judo is mainly geared towards hip throws. Even if you don't know what judo is, you see someone else pick someone up and slam them. Looks nice. You understand it. It's an easy thing to understand. So they've tweaked the rules to make that more happen, and it dilutes it. Like you can't even grab the legs at all now because they had someone who come from wrestling, did really well, won Olympic gold, and then the following Olympics you can't grab the legs now. And to me personally, it just kind of waters it down a little bit, and I wouldn't want to see that happen to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This wouldn't be very popular at all because they've all got their own strengths: Greco-Roman, Olympic wrestler, freestyle wrestling, and judo. But personally, I think the best way to do it would make Olympic submission wrestling. Maybe keep those three as standalone traditional sports, but you can wear what you want, gi, no gi, whatever, ADCC style, all the submissions, all the throws, and have it almost like a submission-only tournament. And then the best grappler, whether you're from a judo background, jiu-jitsu background, whether you wear a gi, you don't wear a gi, and make the Olympics what it should be. That is, we do Olympic grappling. The aim is to submit your partner, whether they've got a gi on, they haven't got a gi, whether you're going for feet, whether you want to wrestle, whether you want to pull guard.
Essentially, the best man's
and
going to win that.
And then I would get behind that, and then the Olympic gold in that would actually mean a lot. That I'd get behind, but like I say, these old organisations, they move very, very slow. You've got the traditional wrestling guys traditional judo guys who wouldn't want to change what they do or to see another grappling style come in. So there would be a lot of resistance from it. But I think if it goes Olympics, should be all bets are off. It's straight grappling, submit your partner, you win.
Oh, Vale Tudo rules.
Well, maybe not Vale Tudo, keep it grappling.
Similar sort of, like the format.
Similar mindset, yeah.
Similar sort of format,
Make it, there's an opportunity there, to invent a new form of grappling that is not
That's actually quite cool. I'd love to see
That's what I would get behind that now. I wouldn't like to see Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu go in there as its own standalone sport and then over the years get picked apart and become something that I don't recognise. I think there's a danger of that when your sport goes to the Olympics.
Okay, Kev, thanks for coming on the podcast. Just going to wrap this up now. Obviously, talking about your history, what arts you've done, how you got into Jiu-Jitsu. Pretty much. And just one last question. How would you like to be remembered?
I'm not even sure I would be remembered. I don't know. Maybe as the first guest on the Minotaur podcast would be like an achievement.
That's a good answer.
I think...
no, but in Aylesbury, you are, obviously I'll let you make your own answer, but you are a pioneer for Jiu-Jitsu in Aylesbury.
Yeah.
You're like pretty much the first guy that was doing it,
Yeah, I think there was a couple of guys, some of my friends were doing bits and pieces, but I think for making that regular trip to London, I was the one that kind of kept it going, once,
and
twice
it
a
back
week
here sort of thing,
and tried to bring it back. And I did think about, for a while, people used to think I was good at grappling because they didn't know anything. But they didn't realise that I'm training with Roger Gracie. I go to the competition sessions when he's getting ready for the Worlds, and you'd have Victor Estima, Braulio Estima on the mat.
The best guys in the world.
Guys in the world, and I was like a blue and purple belt. I knew that I was not going to reach that level. I was in my mid-20s. I knew what the top was, and I knew that that wasn't me. So my aim was really just to, first of all, give people in Aylesbury who, this is the town I was born in, the town I grew up in, to give people who grow up in Aylesbury the opportunity to learn Jiu-Jitsu and train Jiu-Jitsu without having to get the train to London every week. So first that thing was to get it going in Aylesbury so people could have the proper Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu experience without having to leave the town. So to be remembered as someone who just planted the seed of Jiu-Jitsu here, and then anything that kind of comes from that was started with, a couple of mats in the front room. To be remembered as that guy would be pretty cool. Yeah, that'd be right.
Yeah, man, that sounds good, mate. That's a cool answer. Okay, that's the end of the podcast. Kev, thanks for coming on.
No, thanks for having me, mate.
Episode 1 and that. It's been really good talking to you.
Good
to catch up on stuff and hear about all your stuff, and that. It's been really good. Okay, you can find the podcast on social media. We also have the Minotaur Fight Store. If you need any gear, equipment, you can check us out. We do everything, all martial arts, all the big ones anyway, Jiu-Jitsu, MMA, boxing, Thai boxing, kickboxing, wrestling, no-gi stuff, leisure wear. So yeah, check us out. We've got a store as well. Check out the store. We're based at Unit 68 Edison Rd. We have a retail store where you can come and check out all our gear, or you can place an order online as well. And then Kev, what's this other thing? TCSM?
Yeah, security company. So obviously we've got the gym, RGA Bucks, that's cool. In Aylesbury. Yeah. And then out of there we've got the gi team, we've got the MMA team, we've got a ladies class now. So lots of stuff going on at the gym, all the kids. And then out of there we run a security company, myself and my partner Jamie. and you can get all your security qualifications, SIA level 2, level 3, your first aid courses, all that kind of stuff. So
Cool.
we're doing that as well.
That was good, man. I actually enjoyed that.
Cool, good.
That felt good. Just to hold this whole.
I went much better than what I went.
So you were nervous before, but once you
Yeah, once I got into it, it was good, man. That's good to hear all your stuff, Kev, man. To have it,
I-
actually have it
I-
on.
Listen to it.
I haven't got to remember anything ever. I've just got to remember. I ain't got to remember any lines. I've just got to tell my life.
Yeah, that was good, man. Was that? No, it was good because it felt like. Also, I know Kev Minutes. It felt nice talking. I don't know how it wasn't that. Hopefully, it comes good on the camera. It comes across like.
I
the
think
same.
it's a good way to market.
Beautiful.